Around the Block, with Cody Diesbourg and Brigitte Pellerin.
Hi everybody, I'm Brigitte Pellerin.
I'm Cody Diesbourg.
Together we have over 40 years of experience in karate. You more than me, even though you're way younger. And we want to use that experience and share the lessons that we've learned in our combined 40 odd years of karate to help you be the best person you can be.
It's pretty good.
I thought so.
We're sharing our martial arts experiences and basically taking all the hardships, all the ups, all the downs, and basically passing it on to show how you can use it through life.
So basically, we sweat so you don't have to.
Perfect.
Or do we still claim that people have to sweat a little bit?
Mentally or physically?
Yeah, a bit of both. All right. Tell me a little bit about yourself. You started karate when you were?
I was probably about 5.5.
Why? Why did you start karate?
Well, I started karate for self-defense, actually. I was getting bullied at school. I think I was in grade 1, and I was getting bullied by the grade 8s. And yeah, that was something that I wanted to do. I knew that it was good for self-defense, and I also kind of wanted to be a Ninja Turtle deep down at heart.
And so how did you do that? Did you talk to your parents? What?
Yep, talked to my parents. I told them I wanted to do karate. They took me in for the first intro, and Bernardo there, he was my first karate instructor, Michael Bernardo, and he took me in for the intro. And believe it or not, I got turned away because I wasn't focused enough for karate. Back in the day there, they didn't have the type programs that we have now that are geared towards the little guys, you know, and so I just didn't fit into the program. I was too young. So he said, take a year, you know, see how he does after a year. So my mom got me into some other sports. My parents got me into some other sports. And I think it was my first day of basketball that I went to practice. And on the way from practice to the car, I went, hey, Ma, has it been a year yet? And she goes, yes, it has. It's been exactly a year. So she took me back, and I haven't stopped since.
So that was in London, Ontario.
That was London, Ontario.
With Michael Bernardo, the legendary Michael Bernardo.
That's right.
What did you learn with him that you still remember to this day?
I mean, I learned a lot as a kid, especially, you know, being focused and disciplined and everything that karate brings. Because, you know, back in the day too, it was more of a traditional style of teaching, you know, and we still teach traditional karate, but we teach it in a newer way, right? And so it was sort of the one way to teach. Everyone had to fit into that model. And, you know, it was great for me because I was kind of a wild child. So, and by wild child, I mean the focus was not there. My focus needed focus. And going through the program, there was a lot of great stuff I learned. But the number one thing that I remember was actually how good he was with kids, especially with that traditional mentality, right? I broke my leg when I was 7, and I was off for a bit. And that was a big hit for me because karate was my life at that point. I'd already gotten up to my green belt or my purple belt, and it was the end all be all was karate. And I actually remember standing at that door my first time back, and I still had this boot on my foot so that everyone knew what foot not to touch. And I was a little bit, I think I was still using my crutches, and I really did not want to go back in. I had some anxiety there at the door. I couldn't get past that door. And, you know, Sensei Bernardo, Shion Bernardo now, he took me in and he found a way to talk to me that made sense. I don't actually honestly remember what he said to me, but it worked. And I got in. He put me at the back, stuck a bow in my hands, sat me down on the ground, and I worked my upper body. And, you know, it was just that moment of, you know, you could have lost a student, but also, for me, could have lost my passion, my lifestyle, right? Because I've been going for 25 years now. And yeah, I got a lot to thank him for that.
So what's a bow for people who don't know?
A bow is a stick. It's a walking stick. It was used for different things back in the day with, like in Japan, they weren't allowed to use weapons, you know, so they had to hide their weapons. So they used farm tools. and this was something that was a walking stick or carried the buckets of water, and they learned how to use it to defend themselves against the samurai. And
So you sat or stood at the back of the class. And
I sat.
You sat.
I sat.
Your leg was not yet back into full operation, and so you just sat there and worked those techniques.
I worked them hard. And I mean, and Gian Bernardo, he's one of the best bowmasters in the world. You know, countless titles, and really is a pioneer in the way we do bow now. Yeah, so I was really lucky to have him be a mentor for that, but also give me a chance to use that bow when I couldn't use my legs.
And do you think that experience left you with some lasting lessons in how to try? I don't want to say rescue necessarily, but sometimes you have kids that have trouble, kids that don't really want to do it anymore. They start karate and then they say, I don't want to do this anymore because it's hard and I don't like push-ups or whatever reason. And you find a way, very often I see you teaching, and you will find a way to kind of get them back a little bit. Say, well, that's fine. You don't have to do everything, but how about you do this small thing here, or you sit there and you watch a little bit. So you try not to let kids just disappear on you. You try to keep them with you. Do you think that goes back to that episode?
Huge. Like I think that's the main reason why I get I get so many kids back on the floor who are a little skeptical or anxious, or for whatever reason they just have a hard time trying to get through those doors. I think back to when I was a kid and what it did for me, and then I try to use that to help them. Now, as far as what works for people, it's different for everyone, and that's why I say he was so good with kids, because he could read what you wanted, right, and what was going to get you to step your foot through that door.
Now, if you think back about what karate has given you, 25 years, you're now 30 years old, and that's your life. Karate's your life. That's what you do for a living.
Oh, yes.
Other than the discipline and the sport and the fitness and the competitive aspect of it, what has karate brought to your life, really, that you would not have if you had not stuck with it back in the day?
Definitely has shaped my mindset on everything I do. I relate it back to karate. Whether it's school, you know, trying to do the stuff that you maybe don't always like to do, so that you can do the more fun stuff, so you can do, the things you really enjoy. On top of that, it's taught me a bunch about sports. Like karate is the number one reason why I was able to hang out with my friends and actually play sports with them, because I was not a gifted athlete at all. And the hard work that I put into karate and the development it made, or it gave me with my motor skills and my eye-hand, eye-foot coordination, just core strength, balance, all that stuff that it offered me, I took to other sports. And I may not have been the best skilled player, but I was one of the hardest working. And that was actually one of the things that I loved to do, was have a coach use me as an example. I know there's a lot of people that are like, oh, he's pointing me out, he's singling me out.
Oh,
and
no, not me.
Yeah, exactly. And just that well, if Cody can do it, everyone should be able to do it. A lot of people think of that as kind of a diss or a backhanded compliment. I was like, yeah, that's right, guys. You're darn right. I can outshow you here. And it was just the mentality of never giving up, that relentless spirit that karate brings, and just the skill of pushing harder, and the drive of being competitive, and not just with other people, but with myself. It was more of a challenge for me to be good at stuff than it was to be better than other people. And I think that's like the number one thing martial arts has taught me.
Yeah, because I look back at my kids and doing martial, and even myself, because I started as an adult. I was almost 31 years old. And the ability, you get better at it the more you do karate, but the ability to just not give up. And not just in karate, but everything else in your life. There's something hard that faces you. There's a challenge, there's an obstacle in your way. And you just look at it and you will deconstruct it until you can say, okay, I will take this chunk and I will conquer that chunk. And I will take another chunk and then I will conquer that. And then next thing you know, you've conquered that obstacle and you've moved on from that and you've succeeded at something. And that to me, and my kids are learning that lesson, and they're 10, 8, and 6, and already they're starting to show signs of being able to master that in themselves, just the art of being able to be resilient and just stick with it and stick with the goal that they have and work through it. And that to me is one of the biggest, and I mean huge benefits to karate. And I wish everybody knew this, because I know it's expensive. Doing karate is a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of effort, but what it does for your children, or even your grown-ups, really.
Yep, anybody, because that's the thing. You can start at any age and still grow and learn a lot about yourself to use what's happening, or use what you've learned for what's happening in your life at that moment.
Now, you told me a story about not really wanting to do your black belt test when you were first eligible to go. Tell me more about that.
Well, let's see. I was kind of an odd kid in the sense that, most kids at that age, I think I was somewhere around 9 when I was eligible. I was a brown belt. I had been there for, I think, a year.
And they were ready to test you.
And they were ready to test me. And they said, Cody, you ready to go for your black belt? And I said, no, sensei, I'm not ready. They kind of looked at me funny and went, well, okay, sure. And they wouldn't have asked me if they didn't think that some part of me could succeed at it, right? I mean, that's the job of an instructor. A good instructor is to help your kids succeed. Don't throw them into the right situations that are going to test them, but not going to crush them, right? And I said no. And then the next year, so I went a whole year of training and competing. And then the next year it was, okay, so are you going to go for your black belt this time? And I said, no, I'm not ready. And then they asked me, well, why? That was the moment they're like, okay, well, why is this kid saying this at this age? Most kids will jump at the chance to do it.
For sure. Yeah.
Somebody says, here's an opportunity. Here's an apple. You want it? Let's do it. But I said no. And they asked me why. I said, well, I look around and the people that are ahead of me, that are black belts, the people at the dojo, I didn't think I was that skilled. Not skilled, but mentally skilled. I wasn't ready for it.
Right.
I knew kind of what a black belt meant because I had all these people ahead of me that were showing me by example what it meant to be a black belt. Now, the other thing too was when I was growing up, it was a 17 and under competition. So once you hit black belt, it wasn't done by age groups. It was done by juniors, 17 and under, and 18 and over. And I looked up to a lot of my other black belt and friends that were at the dojo, and those guys were really good. I mean, I was blessed to be at a really competitive school that had some really skilled competitors. And yeah, I didn't think I would be able to hang with those guys in competition level. And so I said, no, that's my reasoning. And they went, oh, well, it's actually a pretty darn good reason. And that, I think, looking back now having graded my own black belts and taught students across Canada, it's something where you realize that your student actually knows what a black belt is, right? Because there's not a lot of people that understand what a black belt is until they get a black belt, right? And I kind of had that a little bit, or at least I feel like I had it before. And then the next year that came up, so I waited a whole nother year.
So by that point, we'd be 11 or
somewhere
12,
around
somewhere
11.
There.
And yeah, they went up to me and they didn't ask this time. They said, Cody, you're doing your black belt.
And that's not a question.
And that's not a question. And so, yeah, I did my black belt test and I passed.
So what is a black belt to you? What does that mean to be a black belt?
That's a tough one to put into words because it's different for everybody. As you know yourself, you've gone through a couple degrees now, and I know it changes as you go through those degrees. Because really what a black belt to me is what you make it. You're in charge of what you see your black belt to be, right? And that's why I really get upset when people think about others where they're like, I don't think that person deserves a black belt, And I say, well, you don't know their whole life, you don't know their story, and as instructors, we're kind of privy to it. We don't just deal with our students at the martial arts dojo or at that level. We also know their whole family background. We know their school background, their friends, because we're dealing with stuff. I mean, I started karate because I was getting bullied. My instructors knew this,
right?
And actually once I started karate, it stopped. Not just because I knew how to kick and punch, not because I was a smarter kid because of being in martial arts. Sure, that helps with my confidence and stuff. But I also had friends at the dojo now that were at my school. And there was a black belt there, Jaden Wolfenden, who he said, I was looking at it, he goes, hey guys, don't do that. He was in their grade 8.
So he defended you.
He defended me, and that was it. My bullying stopped. So it's really that family part of being in a dojo too.
You put in a video recently that we did together about a character development video that you said that when you're a black belt, you see you're a master of the basics of karate. And I actually like that very much because that was my first thing when I first became a black belt in 2004. And my reaction to when I finally got it and I got the blackie and it was all shiny and new and I was excited and I went to my first class and I thought, great, now I'm ready to learn karate. That was my reaction to it.
It's a great reaction.
Right? Now that I've gone through all these steps and these levels, and sure there are other degrees of black belt, and I'll think about that later because I just got this one and it's good for a couple of years. Now I can focus on getting back to the basics of everything and really thinking, what is it that I'm doing when I'm doing a stance, when I'm doing a block, when I'm doing a kick? Exactly what am I doing, and working to really try as much as I could to master every single technique to make everything look better. And that to me was the biggest challenge when I first got my black belt.
Now, do you think you knew that before you got your black belt, that it was going to be like that, or was that something that you figured out once you got your black belt?
I think I figured this out when I got my brown belt.
Yeah.
That I saw that as the goal, and I was happy that it
kind of
was,
while you were prepping to be a black belt.
That's right, because I had a lot of thinking. I didn't have kids at the time, so I had a lot of time to think. But that's what I was thinking, is that what is it going to mean? Because you have a full year to go as a brown belt.
Yep.
And you see this black belt test ahead of you, and it's a big one, and it's a scary one. But then thinking ahead to this is not the end. And I find this so unfortunate and sad sometimes that not that many people, but it does happen. They get to the black belt test, they pass it, they get their black belt, they come in, do a couple of classes of black belt, and then they kind of fade away.
Yeah, it's kind of a marker on their portfolio, right? They put it down as a accomplishment, and it is an accomplishment,
for sure.
But there's so much more that goes with what you do with that accomplishment, right? And as you say, when you get to that level and you see those doors opening up, right, where you actually get to apply the stuff that you've been training for so long, and the countless hours you've put into it, what opportunities those open up, and it's so neat.
I see a big difference personally between having a black belt and being a black belt.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Expand.
That's a good one. Well, let's see. Having a black belt, anybody, you've heard it where you said everyone could buy a black belt, right? There's stores that sell black belts.
For sure, yeah.
Right? But as we were saying, it's what you put into it is what you get out of your black belt. And, when I'm looking as an instructor, I look for growth. How did you look, and what was your mentality, and what kind of a person you were when you entered the dojo for the first time as a white belt? And everyone in the streets are white belts, right? They just don't know it yet. So when you have that beginning point, what was the growth that you've accomplished in this set time before your black belt? And really, that's what you're getting out of it. It's all the hardships. It's all the accomplishments, all the ups and downs that go with martial arts, and the life lessons and the teachable moments.
And the pain in the joints.
And the pain, as we say, the blood, sweat, and tears that go into the belt.
Boy, there's a lot of that. Yeah.
Oh my goodness! I think my mom told me recently too, where she said that she went to go wash my belt once, and I went, whoa, whoa, whoa. It was when I was younger. I said, whoa, it's got my blood in it, right? It was like,
don't touch that.
Don't touch that. That's right. And it's just funny moments that kind of come back when you're older. Yeah, but being a black belt is really about earning it. Is really about taking on this adventure of martial arts and making it your lifestyle.
Now, see, being a black belt, and that's not just true of karate. I'm sure it's true in other martial arts disciplines too. But it's kind of your permission to give to other students the knowledge that you have, the experience that you have, to share with them, because now you have some authority, right? You have this piece of black cloth around your waist that says, I'm now a teacher, I'm now a sensei. But it gives you that permission to open up to other people and give them more of those lessons that you have learned, and sharing with them what you know about karate. And if you look back to when you first got your black belt, which now I'm guessing was about what, 12? You were about 12 years old when you got it?
Yeah.
Do you remember yourself thinking that way, or were you thinking something differently, like, look at me, I'm so cool, I have a black belt? Or what were you thinking at the time?
You make me go back now.
Mm-hmm.
I feel old.
Mm-hmm.
I think, just that confidence boost too, where you've accomplished that first milestone, that first stepping stone to something bigger, right? And you do have this sense of leadership that goes with it. I mean, you had to have it to get to that point.
Mm-hmm.
But now people are, like, eyes are on you,
right?
There's a reason why I was a youngin' and going, yeah, I'm not ready for my black belt. It's because there was people before me that were setting the bar, because I looked at them and they had that black cloth around them, right? And it wasn't the cloth, it was what they used, or what they did with it,
mm-hmm.
right? And how they presented it themselves, and how they carried themselves. And with great power comes great responsibility, right?
I was just going to say, that's a scary thought.
It's a scary thought, especially at such a young age.
Right.
But the nice part about martial arts is that it doesn't matter what age you are. It doesn't
mm-hmm.
matter what sex you are. You have to respect what the person has done
mm-hmm.
and where they've come from.
Right.
And you may not know the whole story, but you know that they've earned that black belt for a reason. And there's somebody that has this knowledge of what it took to get there, and they can help you get there as well.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I think for me, it was something that I took to heart, for sure. I mean, I was in there helping all the time that I could, and my goal was to help others achieve what I've achieved, right? And the best way to learn is to teach.
Absolutely, yes.
Right?
And that's not just for martial arts.
That's not just for martial arts. You really get tested on how much you know. There's so many times now too. I've been doing this for 25 years, and it's really humbling when you have a 5-year-old who will raise their hand in class and ask you a question that you've never heard before. And you have to take a step back and go, you know what, kid? You win this round.
You got me.
1 point for you.
But they
right?
still want an answer.
They still want an
Because
answer.
they're 5 years old and they can't wait.
That's right. And one of the things my teachers taught me was that it's okay not to have that answer.
Mm-hmm.
But what's not okay is not to find that answer.
Right.
And that's what martial arts has really brought, to the table for me, is the fact that I'm okay saying, you know what? You stumped me. I don't have that answer. However,
I will find it.
I will find it.
Mm-hmm.
But I've gone one step farther now, and I don't know if you've heard me in the dojo floor where I say, but I challenge you to find it first. Mm-hmm. And that gives that power to that person to be able to go, oh, maybe I don't have to just ask questions. Maybe I can actually search them out. But that person's going to know it. Once they find that answer, they're going to know it so well that they're going to love to teach it. Right? And I think that's really what it is when you become a black belt, is you know stuff so well. You've practiced it so much and you've learned it so much that you want to give it out. You want to teach it. And that's the leadership part of being a black belt.
When did you realize that you wanted karate to be your whole life? I mean, when you're a kid, it's one thing, because you have school, family, maybe other couple of things, church or something. People have other things in their lives, but karate was a really big, important part for you. But at what point did you decide, you know what, karate is going to be that's what I do now. I'm not going to try and have a job or a fallback.
That's what
or
I
whatever.
do. Yeah, I know that karate was my life as a kid. 100%. I even had friends who would set their birthday parties to later times because they knew I wouldn't come to their birthday party otherwise. And my mom's trying to explain to me, Cody, it's okay to miss a class. No. Sensei would miss me. He'd miss me in class. He would miss me. And it wasn't that I was going to miss something in the class. It was that I was a part of it, right? Mm-hmm. And she said, no, Cody, it's okay. You're a kid. Be a kid. And this is what I wanted to do as a kid. Mm-hmm. Well, my friends were generous enough to move their play dates and their social things. Yeah, that's right. And that's why some of them are still around. And I forget where I was going with that one.
When did you decide that karate really could be your life as a man, as a person responsible on your own as an adult?
So as I got older, you know, I actually wanted to be a firefighter. Still kind of do.
Probably pays better.
Well, we'll see about that. We'll see about that. You know, you put out something that you love, it's bound to come back in return, right? But I think it was when I moved to Edmonton. You know, I had a chance. My family was moving to run a business, and they actually gave me the chance to stay in London, Ontario when they were moving to Edmonton with my karate instructor, John Marshall, and him to be my guardian, my legal guardian.
And you were what age at that point?
I was probably about 15,
Okay.
which is kind of a scary thought for both of us. I mean, not to have my family immediately around. One part of me was like, yeah, this is going to be fun. But the other part of me was like, no, I really love these guys, and family's really important. And for him, could you imagine being, you know, a young 30-year-old going, oh, wow, I got a teenager as a son, right, in quotations. But yeah, to look after this person, be responsible for this person, this life. But I chose to go with my family. And I knew that I wanted to be a firefighter, which eventually I would have to move out to Alberta. I was very motivated in what I did. And I have karate to thank for that. But I had already talked to police chiefs. I had introduced myself to many firefighters, and I knew exactly what I had to do. And I was going to go out to Vermilion to be a firefighter to do the training.
But then what happened?
But then I got to Edmonton, and I started searching around for a dojo. It took me about 6 months to even find a dojo that was worth calling home. And I don't mean worth, but I mean something that I knew was similar to mine. And not in style, but in the mentality of the teachings. You know, because I really had something special in London, not just from Michael Bernardo, but John Marshall as well, who was a student of Michael. And it was, you know, I got out there, looked around, finally found a spot that I could call home. But I also noticed that there wasn't much in the way of building minds and building good people through martial arts, using that as the tool to shape the youth of tomorrow, if you will. And it kind of got me thinking. And I went, well, if I go firefighting now, I'll lose that chance of being a really solid martial arts instructor. You know, it's something that I had to keep going, and you have to keep doing to be able to grow. And it was really a part of my growth as an adult, as well as a youth. And if I go the other way, you know, if I teach karate, I can always go back to firefighting if it doesn't work. And that's when I decided that, yep, this is what I'm going to do for my life. This is what I'm going to do. And my mom kind of laughed at me, and she goes, oh, so you chose love over money, eh? And I went, oh, well, we'll see about that.
Well, a lot of people choose money over anything else, and they're not any happier.
Well, I guess I give it a shot, right?
Yeah, and money is not everything. No, I believe in that very, very strongly. Okay, so and then what happened?
And then what happened? Then it was probably a couple of years afterwards. Well, so I started teaching at a dojo there, Marashido. And I got to dabble in different styles. They also taught kickboxing and jiu-jitsu, and I ended up teaching the karate portion of it. And a few years later, I opened up my own karate studio out of a dance studio. And here I am thinking that I'm going to get all the brothers of all the girls, but no, I got all the sisters of the girls that didn't want to dance.
That's good too.
You know what?
I like
learned
girls
that
do karate.
they are awesome. I don't know what else to say. They kick butt, right? And they really push people around them to be better, for sure. You know, especially the boys.
Oh yes.
Yes, they never want to be showed up by a girl, but the funny part is that most of the younger girls have more, they're more developed in their motor skills than the boys are at an early age. boys are kind of like bulls in the china shop,
A
right?
little clumsy.
A little bit clumsy, and maybe attention to detail is not their main focus. You know,
Right.
they just want to break things.
Right.
Whereas, you know, the younger girls, they tend to go the way of trying to be precise and really hone in their skills.
And following
And
instructions.
following
I know,
instructions.
right?
It's so nice.
All right. Competition. You started that as a fairly young age. I think when you were a yellow-orange belt, I think you
Yeah.
said, right?
Yep.
Tell me about why you wanted to go in, because not everybody that does karate or any martial arts decides to go into competitive martial arts. Why did you want to do it?
I think the main reason was because my instructors were doing it. Really, I mean, I saw all these great people with all these great skills that were showing them off, and I wanted to be like them.
You wanted to be on stage, right?
Yeah, I wanted to be on stage. I also had to have their hair. It was the cool thing back in the day to have a ponytail, and oh man, I had a
You
great.
had a ponytail?
Oh,
I need to
it's-
see pictures.
I will show you. I look like a sun tot. If you guys know what a sun tot is, it's the Smoggies. Look it up. But it was a nice red mane of hair, and often I got asked if I was a boy or a girl.
Oh,
Yes, but I had fun with that too.
okay. You dealt with that, okay?
I
guess.
dealt with that my own way.
And what did you learn from competition that you don't think you would have learned otherwise?
So much. There. I mean, I learned about myself. I learned about other people. I learned politics. I learned how to better myself in front of people, not just behind closed doors. You know, it's easy to do stuff behind closed doors. You think about singing in the shower.
I do that all day. My car. I'm in my car. I'm just awesome.
Me too. But yet you go in front of some people and the pressure's on.
Not the same. Yeah.
Or even just other people judging you, right? Putting yourself out on the line is a hard thing to do in any setting. And that was a great tool, was competition in the karate world. It's something I love to do. But could you imagine doing something that you love to do and people telling you suck at it?
Yeah, that's hard.
And it happened for me too. I mean, I was never a good fighter. I was great at forms at the beginning, and you know, my broken leg taught me to be great at bow too. And fighting I like to do for some odd reason, even though I got my butt handed to me many times. I still think I'm probably the only person that I know that's been hit with a flying sidekick in the ring. And if you know, the kid backed up to halfway past the ring, and I looked at the judge and I looked at my mom in the thing, and the judge just kind of shrugged, and I look at my mom in the audience and she goes, "Fight. What are you doing? Fight." And I look back and the kid jumps halfway across. I took it square in the chest, which was also my first lesson on how to deal with being winded and how to come
Really?
back from an injury that you would think in your head is so devastating you never want to go back in. But I overcame it, and it made me stronger. And I haven't been hit with one since. So I've learned my lesson.
Right. I saw you getting hit with hook kicks to the head, though.
Shh, don't tell anybody.
Okay, we'll keep that a secret. You're still competing. You're 30 years old. Now you're thinking maybe, at the risk of spilling secrets, maybe you're trying your luck at Olympics.
It's possible.
You want to keep competing. But you had, what, I don't know how many world titles you've got now. I stopped counting after about, the first 35. You have a bunch. Why do you keep doing it?
There's nothing in this world that makes me feel this way. And I've had the chance to talk to other high-level martial artists. And when they stop fighting, there's a piece of them, or when they stop competing, even, there's a piece of them that's missing. And it's that adrenaline, you know, that they were kind of like adrenaline junkies in there, because you're taught to pump yourself up. You're taught how to cope with nervousness, which is actually adrenaline, you know, that fight or flight, and how to deal with it. And you kind of get a kick out of feeling like that. Now, being exposed to all that, you also learn how to control it, and you don't get so nervous in situations. And so you kind of have to sink your teeth into stuff that really makes you feel, right? And man, for a lot of different people, they have different ways of explaining it. But for me, it's really like a meditation. When I've been in the ring and I know I've done my best, it's because I'm empty. There's nothing going on. I'm in the moment. Some would call it an out-of-body experience, but it's pure emptiness, happiness. You're not even thinking. Your body's doing everything that it's supposed to do at the right moments. I mean, one of my best friends, Robbie Lavoie, he talks about it as like art, like he's painting a picture, and for me, it's a meditation. And when we find other things that give us that, it's like, oh, I need to really like sink into this. But it's because of that feeling of competing in martial arts that you were able to find that. And for me, the other thing is being in the mountains on a snowboard. I don't use headphones. I don't listen to music. I listen to what's around me, and it's emptiness, pure bliss. And yeah, the only other spot is in the ring when I'm having my best moments.
So you feel like this is really where you belong.
That's
in
where
the ring, especially when it's working reasonably well. Not necessarily that you're winning, but that you're doing what you mean to be doing. That you're really
doing what I'm supposed to be doing. That's right.
It's interesting because I've seen you come out of a ring having done well, whether you won or lost, but having fought well. And I've seen you come out of a ring where you knew, and I knew that you hadn't fought so well.
Yep.
And you're a very different person coming out of that. You're a lot more fun when you think and you've done well, even if you lost the fight. I
hope I don't show it too much.
Well, people who know you can see the difference. I think it's fairly clear. I mean, it's not like you're not throwing gear or being unpleasant or anything, but you're suddenly very silent when you haven't done well, when you know you should have done better, and you're very silent and you're almost sullen, but not in an obnoxious way to other people, but you're closing on yourself, and you kind of disappear
internal.
a little way.
Yeah.
A little bit. You disappear and you just like, don't talk to me. I don't want to talk about it. Don't try to tell me that I did well anyway. Like,
I know what it was.
You're lying anyway. I know I didn't do well. And so I've learned to not say anything. Just, you know what? When you come back out, we'll be right here and we can talk about it. And I guess my question is, the lessons you've learned doing that, when you know, because that applies to other aspects of life, right? Not just competitive martial arts. When you know you've done the right thing, you've worked hard at something, you've done everything you could have, there's nothing you could have done any different or any better. That's okay, no matter what the outcome is. But when you know you let yourself down, right? You have that moment of, I should have done better. How could we articulate that? What lessons really do you take from those experiences, especially the latter one, the ones where you know you didn't do very well? How do you keep yourself going and going back into the ring after something like that happens? Because it must be very discouraging. And how do you keep doing that?
Well, as you said, it's that feeling that you're chasing, right? So it's really the chase of feeling complete. Whether you win or lose, but being able to leave it all on the mat, being able to leave it all out there. And the times that I don't feel like that, it's because I'm actually conscious of what's going on. And I'm conscious of my movements. I'm conscious of what's going on with myself. And I feel my body more than I feel what the fight and the flow and the whatever competition I'm in. Mm-hmm. And I think when I don't feel the flow and I'm conscious of it, I'm going internal to try to assess what it was that got me to that point. And then I go back even further and I try to go into my head and think about what it was. When was that last time that I felt that emptiness, that meditation, and think about what I could have done to make it go back to that. See if there was any differences. And so it's a assessment that goes on immediately afterwards. That's really important with me. Before I used to do it with my mom. you know, growing up, and my karate instructors growing up. Well, now I'm a man, and I'm supposed to be able to do this myself. And as much as I have people around me to help me, I'm a head instructor, so it's very important for me to be able to do it to myself as well. And yeah, I think it's that self-assessment that gets me to the point where I say, you know what, that's what it is. I could have done better because of this. Now I need to work.
You identify what you did or didn't do that led you to.
And if I can't figure it out, then I call it a wash, and I try to go back to that moment that I did feel that and what made me get to that point. And so I kind of go back on my past experiences of being very successful in doing it. And then I try to relive that in my next upcoming competition.
So that's why you keep doing it.
That's why I keep doing it, is because I'm addicted. I'm addicted.
I don't know if we'll ever use this, but I personally hate it when I know I haven't done well, at karate or otherwise, in any aspect of my life, and then somebody tries to, and they mean well, right? They try to make you feel better about yourself. And say,
It's
no,
okay.
But you did well.
You did so good.
It's okay. It was so good. And I just think, why are you lying to me? I didn't do well. I mean, I know you love me. I know you support what I do. This is great. This is all fine and good. But could you just shut up right now? Because I know I stank right now, and I'm trying to figure out why. And you're just trying to make me feel better. And this is not how I actually feel better. I will feel better once I figured out what I need to do next time to not stink so bad. And I find that martial arts, because having taken up competition fairly late in life at 45, I find that it's very refreshing that way, because it doesn't lie.
No.
You know what? You lose that fight, you've lost, you're the loser. It's written right there in the results, and that's all there is to it.
Set in stone.
Yeah. And there's no talking about, well, I got robbed, or the refs didn't see that point, or whatever. I hate that stuff. The point, the final score is the final score.
Why did you leave it so close if you left it up to the judge's hands, right?
Exactly.
Should have beat that person by more.
Right. Or and sometimes in my case, because I'm still learning and I'm still trying to get better, so to me, sometimes finishing close is actually a victory. Right? And so I try to take it as such, but it's not a real full victory, but it's kind of a minor victory, and that's fine. I can deal with that, but knowing what it is. I just really don't like it when people try to butter me up and tell me that I did well when I know I stank.
I think that's part of the training, right? And the experience is being able to realize what's real, right? Because there's a lot of fake around you. Whether it be other people saying, oh, you did very good today.
I'm so proud of you.
You're so good. Or, there's some people that'll try to cut you down too, and bring you down the other way. And then there's other people around you that talk themselves up or talk themselves down. So it's really, there's so much going on in a tournament atmosphere, in that setting, that you have to really weed out to be able to focus on you. And like you said, there's a result in the end that doesn't lie.
Yeah, you came second. That's it. That's all there is.
But then the next step is, are you going to lie to yourself? Right? Or are you going to be true to yourself? And are you going to, really earn that win? Or are you really going to earn the next one?
And that's what I like about competition, because it forces you to be really true to yourself. And once you know where you're at, like when you know you've been true to yourself, and you know exactly, you can assess what you did right and what you did wrong, then it doesn't really matter. People tell you all kinds of things. Either they talk you up or they talk you down, or they talk themselves up or themselves down. You know where you were.
You know where you stand.
Right? And that certainty that yet you know exactly where you were at that day, I find that it's almost rare in today's world to have.
It's rare because there's not a lot of people that like to put themselves on the line like that.
That's true enough.
There's a lot of safety nets in this world that stop you from feeling getting that opportunity to feel like that and actually know where you stand. Right? That's the competitive nature in martial arts that allows you to, not just the competitive nature, but the teachings that go with it on being self-aware, not just with your body, but with your feelings and your mind too. You know, mind, body, spirit. That's what they're talking about when they talk about martial arts.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, you throw it in a competitive nature. Now you get to actually test a lot of that.
Right, and it gets into sharp focus.
Yeah.
To get back to your focus, because not everybody wants to do competition, and that's completely fine too. There's a lot of people, they have busy lives, they have other work that they really like doing, and they're not going to go into competition. But even just doing martial arts, especially if you find a school where you have that real aspect to it, where people don't lie to you, where they're always encouraging and always positive and always trying to help you get better, but at the same time, you know exactly where you are on the totem pole. When you see other people, you see where you are, and you know when you've improved, and you know when you're not improving fast enough.
But that's why it's so important to not let people just get their belts and get stripes just because other people do.
Or it's because it's been 6 months, so therefore you must have a new belt,
I mean,
right?
kids aren't stupid.
Right.
You know, they're not stupid. They know if another kid has earned something, you know, sooner than them, that there's a reason for it. And not only that, but they know when they haven't earned something, and they're not going to feel good about it. It's going to be empty. You know, that stripe that they get for, you know, doing
Whining
nothing.
sometimes.
Yeah. It's going to be an empty stripe and an empty feeling. But when they've actually had that hardship to get to that point, and they've succeeded in growing through that next step, boom.
You recently shared an article on Facebook about when it was okay to let your children quit. And it was specifically an article about martial arts.
Yeah.
And you said, well, you know what? If martial arts were that easy, everybody would have a black belt.
I say it so many times to the students.
I know, right? And it's true. What would you say to parents, especially when they have a kid who starts, it could be karate or it could be any other activity, it could be swimming, soccer, whatever, and they start an activity and they're all gung-ho and they love it, and then suddenly they start hitting a patch where they actually have to work, right, to improve, to get a little bit better, and then they get a bit discouraged, or suddenly it's no fun anymore because I have to do all these push-ups and I don't want to go to karate anymore. And the parents are not quite sure what to do, because fighting a kid every single day to go to class is hard, and nobody wants to do that.
It's even harder when you know they love it once they get there.
Right. But sometimes they don't. And so parents are not quite sure when to push and when to give in. And what would you say to them? How can you gauge really when a kid is really ready to quit, or should you not even consider that?
I say make them talk to their instructor. You know, make them talk to that person. At the very least, go back in and talk to the person that you're working with. You know, and I'm going to use karate as an example because that's what we do.
That's what we do, yeah.
Yeah, so it's easier to talk about.
Yeah.
That's our tool. But I say talk to your instructor. There's a reason why that person is no longer enjoying what they love to do. And whether it's, you know, it's too tough exercise-wise, too physically tough, you know, mentally tough. Sometimes it's as simple as a kid at school made fun of them for being in karate.
Right.
You know, which I get. I talk to my students when they want to quit or when they're having a hard time getting into the dojo. I book an appointment to talk with them. First, I talk to the kid. Hey, what's going on? How you doing? How's life? How's school? What's going on? You still liking stuff? Trying to figure out what the underlying cause is, because a lot of times it's not the sport that the person is actually upset about. A lot of times it's things going on around them that makes them upset, that makes it hard for them to get themselves out of the house, you know, or out of the, you know, off the computer or anything like that, to get into the dojo to do what they love. And once you figure out that little piece, then you can work on it, right? And being able to recognize, you know, the signs that go with it. It just comes from experience, from teaching so many people and trial and error, but mostly talking, you know, being able to talk it out. How many times have you felt great after you've talked out something, even if you've gotten nowhere with it? You know, you're having a bad day or something, and as adults, we just vent. Yes. And then at the end, we're like, oh, that was about 10 minutes. I'm really sorry I dumped that on you. And the other person goes, you know what? You needed it.
Everybody needs a good friend who's there when you need to dump, and you need to just let it all out, because it's good. It's like popping a zip.
Yep.
It feels
disgusting,
great.
but it's so gratifying.
Right? and sometimes it doesn't solve your problems, but it helps you see them more clearly.
Yes.
And once you see your problems more clearly, then you can address them better.
Yeah, exactly.
And so after talking to the kids, then you can talk to the parents.
Well,
right?
yeah, then we bring the parents in and say, all right,
Here's
this
the
is what
deal.
we figured out. Little Timmy, what's been going on, you know, and then we can work on it. And it's so easy to give up on stuff because you have a feeling. But if you don't put it into words and you don't actually understand why you're feeling that way, you can't fix it, right? And it's not going to be, it's not going to go away with just that one sport, or just that one thing that they used to love to do, because it's going to come back if you don't deal with it. You know, it's going to be an ongoing occurrence. Oh, you know, they hop around from sport to sport to sport. You know, that might be because they just don't like those sports, but it could also be an underlying issue that they actually need to deal with, you know, that's going to help them succeed in stuff they want to do.
All right. Anything else you want to add about your own history and why you want to do this podcast? Oh yeah, how about that? Why are we here? What are we doing? Why are we here?
Why are we here? Why not?
All right.
No, it's you know what? Being able to, I've been really lucky that I've successfully traveled across Canada and taught across Canada. You know, there's not very many martial artists who have had the opportunity to teach at different dojos and still be in good reports with them. There's a lot of egos. There's a lot of hard feelings because you're part of the family, you're part of the group, and if you leave, you're leaving a lot, or you're taking. That's what it feels like. You're taking because they've given a lot to you. Yes, you've given a lot to them, but think about that. They've given it to you, and you have something to offer back, but now you're leaving. So you're not just taking what they gave you, you're taking what you have to offer. And that's the hardest part about moving. And I've had to deal with that so many, like not so many times, but I've had to deal with that enough just in moving across Canada and then moving back. I made the choice to move back from Edmonton on my own after starting my karate school out there. And my main reason was because I wanted to be able to offer my gift to not just a select group of people. I wanted to offer my gift to everybody and really reach the masses. And not only that, but bridge the gap of information. You know, I still talk to my people out west. I still talk to my people in London. There's karate tournaments that I go to and I'm like, oh, I don't just have 20 competitors to coach. I have 50 to 60 because there's all these different dojos that are there that I used to teach at that maybe their karate instructors are not able to make it to that tournament. Well, of course I'm going to help them. Right? And, you know, this is sort of my idea and your idea. I would assume that's why we're hanging out together, but is to reach the masses and be able to offer some insight, because karate is my tool to the mind. It's what I love to do. And I've been fortunate enough to be taught by some of the best in the world. And now this is my chance to pass it on.
I have one more small thing, though, about competing. You said people that used to compete that don't compete anymore. There's a part of them that's missing. You're 30 years old now. That's, I would guess, an age at which people who used to be world champions when they were 16, 18, 20, and so on, start to kind of fall off the competition. You seem to still be going fairly strong. You train hard. You train every day.
I'm in my prime.
You are, I think, well.
I'm going to believe it.
I believe
and that's
you.
what keeps me going.
But what's the difference? Why is it that they had to stop when you can keep going?
I don't think it's so much the why did they have to stop. It's why did they stop, and they're the only ones that could tell. You know, it's not something that we talk about that way. Some people have injuries, but as you know, being in the competition scene, how many people are strapped up and taped together that are still fighting and that are still competing?
Duct tape is a beautiful thing.
Oh, it's a great thing. But that's what it is. The reason is because they love what they do and they want to keep doing it. Now that might be the reason, you know, physically they just can't do it any longer. But I know other people who stop doing competition to be able to give back to the community more.
Right, which is fine.
You know, which is great too. So there's many different reasons why people do it. For me, you know, there's this whole idea that once you become a certain age, you start falling apart. And I call it an idea because if I don't believe it, then it won't happen.
It won't happen to you.
That's right. It can't happen to me. Well, it's
No.
not that it can't, it's that it won't. I'm trying to stay positive.
Right.
And keep my eyes set on the here and the now, and do what I love now. And yeah, if something comes down the line that stops me from actually being in the ring and competing, I know I'm still going to be a part of the competition scene, whether it be as a coach, as a promoter, you know, being able to offer people the same chances that I got and that I still have. But yeah, it's so tough, especially I don't know if it would be related to or be able to, what am I trying to say? There's a piece of me that actually knows that the end is coming of an era, and that there'll be a new era coming afterwards, but at the same time, I'm not fixating on it because I'm still here, I'm still doing what I love to do and what I think is doing well, right?
Somebody I know likes to talk about Luke Skywalker turning into Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Oh,
That's a good one, right?
the Obi-Wan.
Right? And because at some point you're not as young as you used to be, and there are things you just can't do. Now, I'm 46 and a half, and I don't think I've ever been this fit in my life. I don't think I've ever been this healthy in my life. I love this competition thing. It's just, to me, I've written about this, I've joked about this, I keep talking about this. I never feel so alive as when I am dead on the floor in a puddle of sweat and just completely spent because I've just spent half an hour being punched in the nose by 15-year-olds who are about 6 times as fast as I am.
Isn't it great?
I love it. And it's hard because I talked about this to other people, especially people my age, and they look at me like I just sliced a baby in
You're
half. Like,
nuts.
this is so weird. Yeah, okay, so I'm ready to believe that it is weird, but at the same time, it is real. And I wish, that's my goal in this adventure, is I want other people who think that, yeah, it's not for me, I'm too old, I'm too this, I'm too that no, it is for you too, if you want to.
If you want to. And I think
Yeah.
that's the key, is that I still want to, you still want
Yes.
to, and there's still going to be people out there that want to.
Exactly. Even if it's not martial arts, even if it's something else you want to do that it's completely crazy. You want to quit your job because you want to suddenly start painting landscape.
Do it.
Do it!
Do
Why
it.
not? How many lives are you going to get? Right? You're going to wait until you're 90 years old to start living your life? No. You should do what you love right now.
Live with no regrets. You know, I hate it when people say, "Oh, what if?" or "if I could," or "if I could have done something
I
different."
wish I could do like you do.
Right. Well,
Right.
do it now.
Right.
You're still thinking about it. You might as well just stop thinking about it and just do it.
Right.
Right? What's stopping you but yourself?
Right.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to get people to not stop themselves.
That's right. Just
right.
be and live with no regrets.
All right, partner. Let's try and do that then.
Hot dog.